Jennifer Pastiloff specializes in listening. She's deaf, so you might wonder how she does it. It's because she listens with her heart, and she's even managed to create a career out of it, empowering people through global retreats and in person workshops. She's even written a best selling book, On Being Human, a memoir of waking up, living real, and listening hard. She's overcome the death of her dad, eating disorder, miscarriage, and deep depression. She knows what it's like to run the gamut of emotions, or as she puts it, just being human. When the pandemic hit, her career was in limbo. So she did what she's always done. She pivoted. This is Jennifer Pastiloff's Rebound.
I fell apart. It happened, in March, in the US is when we started, we went on lockdown, and it's been awful. And I know we need masks, but they have made my life hell. Not being able to communicate, I didn't want to leave the house. And still, if I'm not with my husband or, a friend, someone who can interpret or communicate, so I'll go, what did they say? And then I panic, and I literally have no idea what you're saying when you have a mask on. None. I had to cancel everything, couldn't get out of bed. And the way that I did was the way that saved my life before, was asking, how may I serve? And so, I posted on Instagram, do you have enough food to eat? And the reason I did that wasn't because I thought that I was, going to be able to feed anyone and everyone that said no, but I knew that this community that I've spent years cultivating would support each other. And that's what happened. And all my energy went to that. Mm-hmm. So it was a beautiful distraction. It was a distraction nonetheless, and I would never, take it back, but don't be fooled. It was definitely a way to also distract myself from going, oh my God, what am I going to do? How am I going to feed my family? It's been 6 months that feels in a lot of ways like 6 years, and also the blink of an eye. Mm-hmm. But I'm here. I'm here talking to you.
Which is significant.
I'm smiling. I wasn't smiling, for many months. I really, what I want to say to anyone watching or listening who struggles with mental health issues, this pandemic has been no joke. I see you. And it was I say I was in the bad place. So now I'm back in the good place.
What's also interesting, Jen, I think people who've never suffered from mental illness, or maybe were never aware that they were suffering from mental illness, suddenly everyone's realizing they're in the same spot, in the same place, it feels like, of trying to get up in the morning. It's hard, sometimes trying to get up.
Oh my God, yeah. And I do want to give a caveat, because the other day I made this post on social media and was really honest about holding a bottle of my antidepressants. And one man was like, they're not for everyone, obviously they're not for everyone, but they're for me. That's what I'll say. They're for me. Yeah, it is hard to get up out of bed. And this pandemic, it's like, what a life-changing experience for so many of us.
Yeah.
Kids are home. We live in a small apartment, all three of us on top of each other, day in, day out, and lost income and no real schedule. So it's been a really bizarre, beautiful, hard time.
You have this incredible memoir. You talk about the loss of your father. You talk about your mother, who also struggled with abuse. You talk about all these difficult circumstances you were able to rise above. How are you not bitter? How did you become this warm, loving, super high energy, eager to help people?
Wait, who said I'm not bitter?
I don't see any of it.
I'm totally kidding. But the reason I made that joke is because, my whole thing is don't be an asshole. And I own don'tbeanasshole.net because I love it that much. And what I want to say about that is that, to be human is to be an asshole sometimes. you cannot look me in the eye and say I've never been an asshole. Like, you wouldn't be telling the truth. And so, have I had days where I felt bitter? Sure. No, I'm not bitter.
How do you move past that, Jen? How do you?
Yeah. I don't even think I moved past it. I moved through it. And it took me a long time to metabolize a lot of the grief I never dealt with. And, you know, I think I talk about this in the book and in my workshops, that we have two options in life: to keep going or to shut down. And they're really nuanced, but that's it. And for many, many years, the bulk of my life, I shut down. And that's what being bitter does, or that's what being resentful does. It shuts you down. And I'm just not interested in that way of living. And so every day I go, well, what do I need to do today, you know, to not let my inner asshole be the boss of me, i.e. the bitter voice.
How were you able to rebound in life?
I mean, it's definitely not just one thing. I'll tell you one big thing. And again, I'm a mental health advocate, was antidepressants for me. And it's something I wish I'd done. I think, oh, wow, if I had gone on them, you know, I've been depressed my whole life, like since I can remember my first memory. But I think if I had gone on them maybe when I was 20, I wouldn't have dropped out of NYU. But antidepressants were the thing that propelled me. I ended up, you know, I had 1 year left at NYU, and I took a semester off, which ended up being forever. So I became a college dropout, and I got a summer job at a restaurant, which lasted almost 14 years. And the way I got out of the restaurant was by doing a yoga teacher training. But I wouldn't have done that had I not got on the meds. So the antidepressants, so I suppose also getting honest with myself. But the real rebound and healing journey came from community. And as I started leading these workshops, you know, over the last decade, I've healed more and more, and I've become more myself. And I've become, I don't know, you know, closer to who I think I really am. And so much of it has come from the people that show up. You know, I get just as much as they do. It keeps me in alignment. It keeps me congruent. So besides the antidepressants, it's the community. And then it's the tools I talk about in my book.
You also talk about something called fiercely listening. Why is that so hard for people, Jen?
We're so self-focused, you know, so when someone's talking, we are waiting for our turn to talk. And what am I going to say next? And it takes a real practice to just be and bear witness and listen without an agenda. When I think of someone like my mom, who was deeply abused, as I talk about in the book, who never felt heard in her life and never was heard. If you spend your whole life not feeling heard, you think that's still occurring. And so you want to jump in, and that's normal and human. And it's just, it's a practice. It's a practice to fiercely listen.
In addition to fiercely listening, you like to say, I got you. Why is that important for people to hear?
Oh gosh. I mean, is there anything better? Tell me, besides like, hey, here's a check for $3 million. What is better? What is better? You know, it's, I don't know. It saved my life. And I think it didn't, I don't know how many years in doing the workshops, but it came to me. I was like, oh, that's what this is. This is the embodiment of I got you. This is what it means to be gotten. I think it allows people to feel safe. And we desperately need that.
What are we lacking that being able to hear that from somebody really can be so transformative?
Well, you know, most of us feel like we're alone, and like, you know, or we have a bullshit story that we're not supported in life. And so to let go of that armor or that story and just receive is really challenging, I think, for a lot of people. I don't know, you know, as someone, my dad died when I was really young, and that's like always what I crave, I got you, and it's going to be okay. And I think everybody loves hearing those two things. And it's just it's like being held.
It's like being held. Yeah, that's exactly what it feels like. You're right. When I read that in the book, I just thought, you know, it's such a simple phrase, but hearing somebody say that, especially in the midst of a pandemic, really means something.
There's a phrase I heard Wayne Dyer speak, and I used to say it all the time. I think it's from A Course in Miracles. And it's, if you knew who walked beside you at all times during this path which you have chosen, you would never again experience fear nor doubt. And my guess is whoever wrote that was speaking of, God with a capital G. But I think when you're in I got you for someone, that's it. You're walking beside someone.
I think that in this moment, a lot of people feel that their government has failed them. You've managed to create a community of helpers. How do people replicate that in their own communities?
That's a great question. So I do ask every day, how may I serve? And it looks different all the time. And for me, I have a big platform. And so I use that. And someone's like, well, I don't even do social media, or I only have, 100 followers, or, none of that shit matters. How may I serve can be, you check in on your neighbor, your elderly neighbor, and you offer, next time I go to Trader Joe's, can I get groceries for you? What do you need? Or if, maybe it's sharing a link, maybe it's just checking in on someone, maybe it's offering to watch someone's kids because they need to take a shower, because they have no break. It looks different all the time. I think as long as we keep asking that and showing up in ways that we're called and able, the world will change. But so many people don't remember that to be of service is so holy.
I think sometimes though, when you're struggling and you're just trying to get out or find income for the 43 plus million unemployed, it's hard to even think, how can I help someone when I can't even help myself?
Fair. But I would argue, one of the things I always say is, like, when you're depressed or whatever it is, the best thing to do is to go do something else. And it doesn't have to be monetary. Again, you just check in on someone. And if you think that isn't being of service, you're wrong.
What would you say, Jen, that 2020 has taught you? What's the life lesson you learned this year that you might not have?
Gosh, let's see. Well, certainly resilience. True vulnerability. Because to be at a level of success that I'm at, and to be as open as I am with, wow, I've lost all my income, and wow, I'm really depressed, and like that's true vulnerability to me, to be able to be with that and be okay with that. The now, as cliche as it sounds, is that all we have is the now, which is like one of those things where, like, I know. But then, the pandemic hit and everything went. Yeah. All my plans and my dreams for the year and the coming year, and you go, okay, all we have is now, for real. Mm-hmm. If you didn't learn that in 2020, then where are ya?
I know, I keep saying too many people had resolutions for 2020 to live in the moment. And here we are, everybody living in the moment.
Right?
Yeah.
I think, also, gosh, this is such a good question. There's a lot, but possibility is one of my favorite words, but possibility. And I think when we stay connected to possibility, magic happens. And right now I'm in a real place of possibility, especially because I finally pivoted to online stuff. So I think, wow, really anything is possible.
What do you say to people who can't exactly get out of their darkness?
Well, first of all, it's okay. It's okay. It's part of being human to be dark sometimes. I think the problem is that when it goes on for too long, or it's every day of your life, as opposed to, like, a little bit of time. I say, coming back to the ask for help and talk about it. Find things that bring you joy and do them every day. Laughter, finding it, even though it's hard when you're really dark, it's hard to laugh, but it's not impossible.
It's not impossible. That's great advice. It's so true. It is hard to laugh when it's dark.
Yeah.
You have this
Yeah.
concept called beauty.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
is it?
It's the key to survival. It's the key to surviving and thriving. And it's just stopping where you are in the moment and naming the 5 most beautiful things. And it's not of your whole life, it's of the moment. So what it does is it causes you to pay attention wherever you are. So even if you're in the darkest place right now, what are 5 beautiful things? And you find them. You do. Even in the shit, even in the hard times. But it's a spiritual practice. It's a habit.
How would you describe yourself, and really, what's the impact you want to leave when your work is done on this earth?
I would describe myself as a connector. My friend, who's just a genius writer, Kiese Lehman, he called me a heart magician, and I really liked that.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Heart magician, yeah. Everyone read his book called Heavy, one of his books. Connector and a heart magician, and the impact I want to leave. I mean, I have a photo, not a photo, a print of my quote on the wall. And it's, when I get to the end of my life and I ask one final, what have I done? Let my answer be, I have done love. So that's really it. You know, I want people to think of love and feel, and love as a verb. Not everyone's going to, just like, that's okay. And that's life. But, and doing love looks different all the time. But I do think I want my legacy to be that.
Love.
Mm-hmm.